Ah, the good old DR-Z400. This legendary off-road bike from Suzuki was first released in 2000 and is still powering on today. Basically unchanged too. As you may or may not know, Honda has just announced their new CRF300L and Kawasaki their new KLX300 Dual Sport. And you know what I think Suzuki should do? Trump both of them and announce a new DR-Z400. Just a quick one, if you like what I've been doing, hit that subscribe and like button. I've made the decision recently to dedicate a lot more time to OnTheBackWheel, and every little bit helps. Also, feel free to check out my website, OnTheBackWheel.com. So I know it's not just me who thinks Suzuki should make a new, updated DR-Z400. I've been thinking it for ages, I've had multiple people comment in videos recently, and the internet has been screaming out for one for years. I mean, the last update the DR-Z had was in 2007, and that was only to the crappy S model. So currently there are three versions of the DR-Z400. We have the E model, a more off-road biased version which is high performance, approximately 48 horsepower at the crank, and is slightly lighter. Okay, 48 horsepower is definitely generous, I'm just quoting Suzuki's numbers, alright? And then there's the S model, which is a softer dual sport version with approximately 40 horsepower at the crank, lower compression, a smaller carburetor, and a stronger subframe. And finally we have the SM, the motard version. Now in Australia, the E version is street legal, whereas in some overseas markets, the USA, they have the crappy S model. Now, while I know a lot of people are excited for the CRF300L and KLX300, I have a strong feeling that both are still going to be underpowered and the CRF is definitely still going to have crappy suspension. To me, it's hard to recommend a CRF250L or KLX250S over a DR-Z400. The DR-Z is better off-road, weighs the same, has more power, and is still stupidly reliable. Now the current DR-Z still sells by the truckload, but it has some issues and could be way better. First up, it has a 5-speed transmission with terrible ratios, the stators tend to burn out and the regulator rectifier needs to be upgraded, the seat's just too hard, the suspension's too soft, and it's still running a carburetor. What I'm proposing is Suzuki just scraps the S model and just has one off-road version. The SM model can still exist for all those motard fans. So, what do I think Suzuki should do to make an upgraded DR-Z400? The first change I would do is get rid of that archaic carby and move to electronic fuel injection. Now I can already hear the comments. But Curtis, EFI? That's just another thing that can go wrong. What if I'm in the middle of the Sahara Desert and my EFI fails? Nah, no it won't people, it's not going to fail. I mean, come on, it's no longer 1950. Fuel injection has been around forever now, and it's never at fault. It's a non-issue. While carburetors are fine, EFR is just superior. It's stupidly reliable now. Bikes start a shite load easier with it. They run better, and you don't have to worry about any elevation changes. And if you are riding a DR-Z, there's a fair chance you'll find yourself riding in a wide variety of elevations. Next up is the transmission. My first option would be to go to a 6-speed. Boom, fixed, done. But if they do keep it as a 5-speed, they really need to change those ratios. I've ridden a DR-Z400 tons of times and I find that the 5th gear is way too short and the lower gears are just not quite spaced right. And this isn't fixed with a simple sprocket change either. When you do that, the 1st gear is just too long and then the 5th gear is still too short. So that's the next big thing I recommend they change. Honestly, if they just did these two things, I'd be pretty happy and I think a lot of others would be too. But this is us just fooling around and we can do better. Fix the seat by adding softer seat foam, add LED lighting to save weight and upgrade the current candle they call a headlight, tidy up the rear end so it's less Khloe Kardashian and more Jessica Alba, fix the stator problems, give it a makeover to bring it out of 1999 and into, well, maybe not 2020 because it's fucked, but 2021, and finally firm up that soggy suspension. Some heavier springs and thicker oil should do it, or even better, put the RMX 450Z suspension on it. Now we're talking. And voila! I have created the perfect dual sport that everyone wants. I'd be happy if they didn't even upgrade the engine by adding EFI. Sure, making it a 450 would be epic, but I want to keep the costs pretty well exactly the same as it is, and there's no reason it should change with all these updates. I mean, these are all basic things that are cheap to produce now. Will Suzuki do it though? Probably not while you dumbasses keep buying their crappy S model and the ancient DR-Z400E by the truckload. I mean, it's still one of the biggest selling bikes in Australia year after year and around the world. So expect Suzuki to do bold new graphics for plenty of years to come. Everyone at the moment is searching for that unicorn dual sport, and frankly, it just doesn't exist. Yes, every bike isn't perfect, but I think my new DR-Z400 would be pretty bloody good. What do you guys think? Should Suzuki make my new DR-Z400? Let me know in the comments. Alright, catch us later guys. Hit that subscribe button and keep it on the back wheel.